So to finish up our mock-up, we'll add a photo and 3 different sections to the main screen of the app. Now, I'm already in Illustrator, and let's just do a little bit of organization before we go too far. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my Layers panel, and I'm going to create a new layer that we're going to call Icons. And what I'll do is select all of the elements that make up the various icons for my project. So I'll grab all these guys, and then what I'm going to do is move them onto the icons layer. So now all those icons are on one layer and the interface elements are on another. That looks pretty good. Now what we can also do is go ahead and lock those layers, since we're not going to really be needing them for now. And then I'm going to go ahead and create another layer. So I'm going to hold down Alt or Option, click the Create New Layer button, and I'm going to call this Photo Elements. There we go. That looks pretty good. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a photo into my project. So in your exercise files folder, I've included a photo which I named butterfly.psd. So I'm going to go ahead and choose File Place, and we'll go ahead and grab that image. And I'm just going to go ahead and click and drag with the loaded place gun. I'm going to make it about that big to start. And then from there, we can just kind of reposition this, and we can scale it to the size that we want to use. So I'm just going to hold down Shift and drag one of the corner handles to scale this. We might want to zoom out a little bit so we can just kind of get a bird's eye view of what we're doing here. And I think that looks pretty good. Okay, we can always adjust this later on. Now I'm going to hide this for now. Just kind of turn off the visibility of that object. So I'll just click the visibility icon there, and I'm going to draw a rectangle in the main screen area. So I'll go ahead and click and drag, at least just to start, and I'll fill it with a color just so that I can see what it looks like. And I'm just going to zoom in to make sure that I'm being accurate here. And you can see that I'm not quite where I want to be. So I'm just going to make an adjustment, snap that right there, and then we'll take a look at the lower right. And again, I wasn't quite perfect, but that's easy enough to fix. That looks pretty good. Now what I have now in the Layers panel, I can open up the Layers panel and turn on the butterfly again. And what I have now is the rectangle as well as the photo. And so I'm going to select the photo, Shift click on the rectangle, and I'm going to choose Object, Clipping Mask, Make. And now we have the photo clipped to the main screen area. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I want to divide this main screen up into 3 different areas. So what I'll do, I already have the rectangle, so I'm going to double click on the edge to go into isolation mode, and I'm just going to select the rectangle, and I'm going to choose Edit Copy. Then I'll go ahead and exit out of there by clicking this left arrow, and I'm going to choose Edit, Paste in Front. And that's just going to put a rectangle all the way in front of everything else. And I'm going to fill that with, let's go ahead and fill it with black to start. And then you'll notice in the Layers panel, it created a new layer called Isolation Mode. And I'm just going to move that onto the Photo Elements layer, and we'll delete that original Isolation Mode layer. That looks pretty good. Now, if I open my Transform panel, what I'm going to do is set the anchor of that object to the top. And then where I have the height value, I'm just going to put my cursor at the very end, and I'm going to type /3. And what that does is divides that object into 3 equal elements. And that looks pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of that. I'm just going to kind of snap that if I can. Let's go ahead and zoom in so I get this at the right spot. There we go. And then I'm going to do that one more time. And I'm just going to make sure that that snaps to the end as well. And let's just look down here and make sure that we're aligned. I think we're doing pretty good. Now, for the top object, I'm actually just going to set that fill to none. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, for this one, this is filled with black. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Transparency panel, and I'm going to change the blending mode to color. And this is going to change this to black and white. Now I don't want this one to be quite totally black and white, So I'm going to change the opacity to like 70%. And that makes it like somewhere in between color and black and white. And then the bottom one, I am just going to change to color, and that's going to make that third section completely black and white. So just kind of a design element that I thought would look pretty fun in this example. And I'll go ahead and close the transform panel. That looks pretty good. Now let's go ahead and just add some text up here at the top. So I'm going to create some point type here, and I'm going to call this the insectarium. And then we'll change the color of that to white. And I'll pick a more interesting font. I'm going to go with, say, Clavo here. Let's go ahead and grab that. There we go. And then we can always adjust the size of this text to fit within that area. Just kind of reposition this. And we can nudge it using our arrow keys. I think that looks pretty good. So now, we have a lot of flexibility here, and, these are representing 3 different sections of our design. So what I'm going to do real quickly is I'm going to create another rectangle about like that to represent the section. And I'm going to fill that with black, and I'm going to set the opacity to, say, let's try 50%. Yeah, I kind of like how that's kind of, I can see through that area. And then I'll create some more text. And this is going to say butterflies. We'll make that text white. And we need to make it a bit smaller to fit within that area. But you can see we're basically representing these 3 categories. And so now if I wanted to, I can duplicate that and align that up down here. And maybe this one is going to be insects. And then we'll do one more time down at the bottom, and we'll call this one other. There we go. So those are like the 3 categories of our butterfly. So now that we're finished with the mock-up, we can move on to the next step, which is to generate the web assets for the app developers that need that to code the project.